Wilmington, Delaware, a modern industrial and economic center. Founded in 1638 on the Delaware River, it is the state's largest city. Rich in history and tradition, its architecture and culture span countless generations. It is the home of Howard High School, the state's first African-American high school, and alma mater of Dr. Richard Allen Williams.
What do you remember about Allen?
Well, I remember being a classmate of Allen's, and he was always an excellent student. He was always out front, and really, I'm not surprised that he's as successful as he is.
It's really great being back at Howard High School. These halls hold so many memories for us. I can certainly recall, Allen, those days when we ran track here. We didn't have an indoor practice field, so we had to use these halls. And I remember even before you ran track, how we both tried out for basketball, but our talents were such that the coach unceremoniously told us to get out. And that's what led us to go up to the second floor where we both signed on for the track team.
We didn't have a field of our own to practice on. And our track coach used to like to start us running early because we ran indoor track. And not having a track of our own to run on, we had to practice in these hallways. So he had to major the hallway so we could run our dashes and our distances so we could get ready for indoor track. We usually ran relays. So if you can imagine running down this hall and around the corner enough times to run a quarter of a mile or a half a mile or a mile, that's what we had to do until this summer when we were allowed to go to Boehner Stadium to practice on that track.
There's so many memories here. I'm standing in front of the old auditorium, which has since been named after Mr. Johnson. And in this auditorium was where you played in the band, is where you performed in a play, and it's where I remember your absolutely fabulous rendition of the Carnival of Venice.
This auditorium should bring back a lot of memories for Allen because we came in here whenever it rained. This is where all of us came to look at the colored movies. Of course, at that time, we were wondering why did we have to look at the colored movies? Now we understand why. But it was a great time in here. Also, this was the place where we graduated from. We sat up on that stage and walked down these aisles when we graduated in 1953. So this auditorium brings back a lot of memories.
We would get together and jam. Like I would teach him what I had found out from Clifford Brown and different guys, and he would try to apply that to his horn. He was very studious and had to potential of being a very good musician had he chosen to go that way. But he was more into the medical field, I guess you'd say, because that's what he was going to Harvard for.
He did a whole lot of things. He was a lot of fun. He wasn't just one stuck up into his books all the time. And he was just an all-around, really good person. And everybody enjoyed him.
I was a member of the concert band and played the timpani. And Alan was a member of both the concert and the marching bands, and he played first trumpet. In fact, he fashioned himself after Dizzy Gillespie, and his nickname was Diz.
Playing the trumpet has always been a good outlet for me. It's been something that I've looked at as a personal accomplishment. It's given me a chance to show that indeed I do have a talent that other people may want to pay attention to, and it's just been fun. As far as nicknames are concerned, I got the nickname Diz because of my admiration for the fantastic late trumpet player Dizzy Gillespie. I always admired his technique. I thought he was absolutely superlative.
In 1953, I was Alan's senior class sponsor at Howard High School. And Alan was a wonderful student. He was academically challenged. Alan was voted by the faculty and by his students, by his student peers, as outstanding in leadership, on the track team, and in the band. He was quite a versatile young man. His accomplishments over the past almost 50 years, I hope will help to dispel the myth that education for blacks before 1954 was second-rate. His teachers, most of them were extremely well prepared and very demanding, and they all were graduates of very, very fine universities and colleges.
Richard was an outstanding student. I remember that something special about him. He would always ask lots of questions. First he would ask questions about the lesson, and then he would question his grades as well. So I knew that he had the markings of a successful student, and of course he did become very successful with his life.
Alan Williams was a genius. He was very, very smart in school. However, he did not make that a big issue, and it was not an issue for the other students around him.
The Williams house was similar to this, only they had, instead of 2 steps, they had 3. Then most of the houses, all the way up to their house, was 2 steps. Our house was 2 steps. When you get to the Williams house, you had 3 steps. And there was Miss Florence, the Jenkins, my house, which was 1221. Next to that was the Millers, and then 1217, where Alan and his family lived. He was the youngest of the family. That's probably why he was able to learn things quicker than the rest of us, because he had plenty of help around the house.
He loved all of his family, all of his neighbors. He got along well with everyone. I can't recall his ever being in a fight with anyone in the neighborhood.
No, it wasn't a tough neighborhood. People in town would say it was tough because if they came over here for a fight, we would win.
At one point, when my mother had to go to work, he would always want to be the person. He always wanted to be the person to go and pick her up at night and escort her home. And he was nothing but a little kid. But he said, I can do it. I'm going to protect my mother because I love my mother.
We used to rob gardens. I think we robbed his own father's garden, stealing tomatoes, things like that. But most of the time we were good kids, because if you weren't a good kid over here, any neighbor would break your neck.
I can recall when he first made his decision that he was going to be a doctor. I think he was about 5. A neighbor happened to pass our house, and he was looking out of the window when he said, the man coughed, and he said, that man has consumption, and I'm going to be a doctor, make people well.
There are cautions to be observed before starting an exercise program. The reason is that you may already have blockage in your coronary arteries or some other cardiac problem without actually having symptoms. There are 2 views regarding how to determine whether you are at risk. On the one hand, there are experts who believe very strongly that if you're over the age of 35, you must have a complete medical examination, including an exercise electrocardiogram. Another group of experts believes that the exercise EKG is not necessary for most people to begin exercising. They feel that, in fact, it gives inaccurate results in a significant number of cases and is not readily available to most people. The moderate view suggests that if you're overweight, have high blood pressure, high blood fats or cholesterol, a family history of heart disease, diabetes, and especially if you smoke, you should have a complete medical examination and an exercise EKG before embarking on an exercise program.
I was just sitting there thinking, Richard Williams was busy 25 years ago. The reason I know that is because the 2 of us developed the King Drew Sickle Cell Research Center and competed for an NIH grant 25 years ago. And I was able to lead that center for 6 years, and that was actually the first major administrative position that I had. So that sort of launched my career as an administrator. So I want to congratulate especially Richard, my good friend and colleague, for all of the outstanding contributions that he's made.
Dr. Williams is considered by a lot of people, including myself, as an organizational genius. And this is a more recent example, is the fact that he founded and envisioned the Minority Health Institute, and actually took a lot of effort and commitment and got it to the point where it is now. Long before the Minority Health Institute, of course, he did a similar thing with the ABC.
I was fortunate to have a very supportive family in regards to my desire to become a doctor. My parents supported me, and my father in particular encouraged me because I think he wanted me to realize a dream that he had. He was interested in becoming a doctor when he was a child in rural Georgia, but had to leave that area because of the adverse circumstances. There were a number of doctors in my hometown, black doctors in particular, who were good role models for many of us. One was Dr. Brown, who lived down the street from our elementary school. He was a really wonderful man, and so was his brother. Dr. Foster Brown was his name, and Mr. Watson Brown was the brother who also had some influence on me. They both talked to me about my early interest in medicine. The main thing was that I could see what a stalwart of the community Dr. Foster Brown was. And as I grew up in that elementary school, number 20, not too far from where his office was located, I often thought of wanting to be a doctor just like him.
I got a hold of the people at Harvard, and we cobbled together a scholarship that would give Alan, we thought from a family that didn't have a lot of money, and this was very important.
Alan had a tough time going school at Harvard because he was unwanted, but he was such a brilliant guy that they couldn't refuse him. He didn't have money, per se, and I remember he used to carry his bicycle to school with him. When he went to Harvard, they would ship his bicycle up there so that he would have a way to get around campus.
I remember visiting with him, and he really didn't have enough money to buy a winter coat. So then what I did is I got a hold of my friend Chick Laird, who ran the Weems Foundation. It was one of his charities. So I got Chick talked into making a grant to Allen that we'd have enough to eat and could buy a winter coat.
Dr. Richard Allen Williams graduated from Harvard University in 1957 and proceeded to acquire his Doctor of Medicine from the State University of New York Downstate Medical Center College of Medicine, after which he completed cardiology at Harvard Medical School, subsequently becoming a member of the faculty. In 1975, he authored a textbook of black-related diseases published by McGraw-Hill.
Some of my students at the medical school raised the question as to whether there were different diseases that were experienced by different population groups, different racial groups. I didn't really know the answer to that question, and so I decided to look into it further, and during the course of all of my research, I decided to write this book. I got a great deal of help from many other experts in this area, and eventually wound up with a 900-page textbook of medicine.
This was one of the first works that I'm aware of where the full aspect of black-related diseases, ethnic differences, both negative and positive, was laid out in a way that a layperson as well as a clinician could understand why race as a consideration is very important in treating people.
In 1974, he founded the Association of Black Cardiologists. He served as the first president, the first chairman of the board, and the first editor of the newsletter.
In the early years of ABC, Dr. Richard Allen Williams was invigorated, enthusiastic about having the plight of blacks having cardiovascular diseases. Dr. Richard Williams rallied all of those who would follow him in having the diseases of the cardiovascular system for blacks addressed.
He stands out from any other person for the fact that he's an incredible visionary. He's unselfish. He thinks about mankind, not just Richard Allen Williams.
Dr. Williams is a phenomenal fundraiser, and he's able to do this because he has an excellent relationship with industry, and he knows the needs of the community. And by bringing those two together, he's able to develop the program and support the programs that are needed to make a difference in the African American community.
I feel that I've made some significant accomplishments in my life. The most important accomplishment was the birth of my children. I have 4 children, 3 daughters and a son, and they're wonderful children. They've really made me feel proud of them in every single respect.
A couple of the famous musicians my father's played trumpet with are Miles Davis and Wynton Marsalis. And I know that those must have both been huge moments for him, but particularly with Miles, because he's always admired him so much. And I'm sure he's so happy he got to do that before Miles passed.
Very complex in the sense that sometimes he's one way and other times another way. I find that I relate to him in different ways a lot of different times, and I like that. I don't like, he's very straightforward in the way that he likes you to be with him, and I like that too.
My cousin Alan is a very unique person in many ways. He and I share our relationship, not only relationship blood, but we're also friends and, let's say, business acquaintances. He's very involved in civic and social organizations. and he was involved with my program at the National Urban League. Alan is also very, very keen on ancestry, our descendants, our ancestors. And one of the things we tend to do is do the research. We travel a lot. So we have an opportunity to visit places that perhaps other members of the family will not be able to do so, and introduce ourselves to these relatives who may not have even known about us.
I was most impressed with his sincerity when he speaks about the patient. Doctors have a tendency to make, I'll say some doctors have a tendency to make the patient feel uncomfortable when they ask questions about their health, their medication. And the group that he's associated with, Black cardiologists, that is one of the things that they set out to disband the myths and to make human beings more comfortable about the questions that they ask about their health. They have the right to know.
But this one, I wanted to be really special because it was a really big wedding. And we had a lot of friends to come in from different places around the country. And so therefore I requested that my uncle be the one to give me away at this one, because he's really been like a father figure to me.
But my father has such a good heart, and he's such a kind person. And they probably don't know that he would walk through fire for the people that he loves. He would do anything for them. And he really believes blood is thicker than water. He says that all the time. And that your family is the most important thing in the world, and never to forget that.
Oh wow, my dad is a grandfather. Now that's been interesting because with him as a grandfather, it's been even different and even better in some ways than you know, experiencing him as a father, because now I'm an adult and I can watch how he's relating with my daughter, and it's just wonderful.
My father is sort of a controlling person, which has its pluses and minuses. On the upside, it's helped him to be very successful, and it's caused all of us to finish with our educations and further ourselves in life.
He did not teach me how to be a hippie. He just sent me to a school. He sent me to a school up north, Humboldt State University, that taught me how to be a hippie.
I wish you all the best.
Congratulations, Uncle Alan.
Congratulations, Uncle Alan.
Congratulations, Richard.
Congratulations, Granddaddy.
That was great. I didn't even know you were shooting. I got that.